This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number 1 is Dr. Lee Franz. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 63, submission number 957, The Moneymaze. The Moneymaze aired weekdays on ABC Daytime from December 23rd, 1974 to June 27th, 1975, for a total of 135 episodes.
At least one source online says that The Moneymaze ran until July 4th of 1975, with the final week of episodes after June 27th of 1975 being a week of reruns.
Oh yeah.
That's it! Come on! You've got 17! Come on, 16! 11! You did it! You did it! Getting out! 10 seconds! 7! 6! 5! We did it! Hey! We got it all! We got it all! And today, another couple will win the chance to run the $10,000 dash on the Moneymaze. Will it be this couple? Or will it be this couple? Now here's the master of the maze, Nick Looney. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. I'm glad you're here today.
So 1975 in game shows.
Yeah.
Everything was big.
Yep.
You had big cards on Gambit. You had big dice on the Big Showdown, future installment Big Showdown. You had big dice and big numbers on High Rollers. You had a big pinball machine on the Magnificent Marble Machine, also a future entry. And now you have a big, basically a rat maze.
Yeah.
Big rat maze.
People are human lab rats in this big maze. Well, not necessarily lab rats, but running around like lab rats in a maze.
Yep. On one of the last, if not the last shows to originate from New York City.
No, there's more that originated from New York City after 1975.
Yeah, I know.
I
mean, it would be a while, though.
Yeah, like we talked about past entry, Past the Buck, which taped at the Ed Sullivan Theater.
And then even if you get into To Tell the Truth from 1980, that recorded at 30 Rock.
Oh, yeah, that did.
And even To Tell the Truth back in the 70s with Joe Garagiola and Gary Moore, that was New York. And that might have been at 30 Rock, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I bet. Wasn't Biff Henderson like a stage producer in that version?
I do think you're right about that, yes.
By the way, not the only Letterman alum we'll talk about in this episode.
Oh, not at all. No.
But yeah, the Moneymaze was just top lines with top-notch talent. You had a reporter from Cincinnati, fresh off of a talk show, if I'm not mistaken. Guy by the name of Nick Clooney. Who'd that guy be?
I think he did the talk show and Moneymaze at the same time. He just
did.
Because actually, while doing research, because we occasionally do research on this show, the Moneymaze and his talk show in Cincinnati aired consecutively.
Yep.
Whoa.
In fact, WKRC, which was an ABC affiliate at the time, aired the Nick Clooney show at 10:30, and then aired Moneymaze at 11 after the Nick Clooney show. Whereas the rest of the country got Moneymaze at 10:30.
Now, what channel was that? What station?
WKRC. It's a CBS affiliate now, but back in the day it was an ABC affiliate.
Oh, okay.
It used to be owned by Taft.
William Howard Taft?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, okay, now, seriously, I think you need to give that station some justice. WKRC in Cincinnati.
Bravo. Bravo.
I'm surprised you two didn't think of it first.
Oh, I was, but you said it first.
Well,
Oh, yeah. It's like we were all thinking it, you said it.
Well, early bird gets the worm there, bucko. But in addition to Nick Clooney, oh, by the way, in case you don't know who Nick Clooney is, for years before AMC became AMC that showed Mad Men and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, they showed old movies. They were essentially the original Turner Classic Movies. And he was one of those hosts who would give a little snippet and background about the movie coming up. And he did that for years. He did that in the 80s and the 90s, and I'm sure he probably was there even up until the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Back when it was American Movie Classics and not AMC, you know.
AMC, we air Killing Eve when BBC America doesn't.
Oh, and I totally forgot about Walking Dead. Yeah, there's a little show on there called Walking Dead, too. But yeah, that's who Nick Clooney is he was the guy who introduced a ton of the movies that American Movie Classics showed back in the good old days, as it were.
But he's also known for something else besides that.
Well, yeah, his sister is singer Rosemary Clooney.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he had a kid. He had a kid who grew up to be Batman. And that kid's name is George Clooney.
Wait a second, Chico. You mean the George Clooney from Future Entry, the 1984 CBS comedy ER?
No, he means George Clooney from Future Installment, the final season of Facts of Life.
Oh, okay.
One and the same.
That guy.
But we really also shouldn't overlook the announcer.
No, we shouldn't. Guy who, if you love announcers, you heard his voice numerous times and you immediately know Alan Coulter.
A.K.A. Big Red.
Yeah.
And gosh knows, he announced everything. I mean, he did USA commercials back in the day.
He did.
And he's done To Tell the Truth. And he's done The Pyramid.
He did voiceovers for Sports Channel, I remember.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's done everything. But yeah, this is one of those early shows where he cut his teeth. I mean, at the time, since this is 45 years ago, he couldn't have been much older than about 30 or so.
No.
Because I think he's got to be in the 75, younger than 80, but older than 75 range, I'd think. So he would have been in his early 30s at that point. Hold on. I will Wikipedia it.
Okay.
March 21st to 43. He is 77.
So he would have been 31.
He would have been 32. Yeah, 32.
Okay, 31, 32 when this aired.
Yeah. So he was just a pup at the time.
I know he did I know he did a commercial for like Gillette razors around this time, and he was actually on camera. This would have been around the same time Moneymaze was on. May have been his first show.
Might have been his first show. I mean, he doesn't have a big filmography, but the first thing listed is Moneymaze. But I mean, the Pyramid he did. It says $25,000 Pyramid. That's obviously I would assume.
Maybe the Cullen version.
Well, I was going to say, I'd assume the Cullen version, plus also he may have been one of those fill-in announcers for the $20,000 Pyramid because they went through a slew of announcers. I know Alan Coulter did the 1980 version to Tell the Truth with Robin Ward. For some reason, I want to say he also did some with Joe Garagiola. I don't think he did. He may have done with Gary Moore, but I'm pretty sure he did. To Tell the Truth, sometime in the mid to late 70s. Oh, and also, I'm going to say it right now, the 1980 version of To Tell the Truth, it's going on the list.
Okay. Yeah, because we've seen like a couple episodes of 1980 To Tell the Truth here and there over the years. and it's something. I mean, considering we now have the current version on ABC with Anthony Anderson, if you go back to the history of To Tell the Truth, it's certainly a notable entry into the To Tell the Truth canon.
In a number of ways. I mean, well, we won't get into the reasons, but it is very worthy of induction, if you will. So now that we've gotten over the cast, we haven't even gotten to the crew with the production staff. It was created by two gentlemen, Don Lipp and Ron Greenberg. Ron Greenberg is a big name in the business if you don't know who he is. He produced Joker's Wild and Tic-Tac-Toe. He created the Challengers and the Who, What, or Where game. And he's a good person. I know Chico, I believe, has met him on one or two occasions. He's good people.
I have met him, and actually, one show he also did, Future Installments, Let's Make a Deal from 1990.
And he did the Pop and Rocker game. We should add that, too. But so Ron Greenberg and Don Lipp co-created this game. They also co-created, as we mentioned earlier, another show from 1975, The Big Showdown. It was also produced not just by Don Lipp Productions, but it was also produced by Daphne Productions. And the big name behind Daphne Productions is Dick Cavett.
Yes.
That Dick Cavett?
Yeah, that Dick Cavett was behind the Moneymaze, behind the production of it at least, yes. You learn something every day listening to this podcast.
I was today years old when I learned that.
Yeah. We bring this show up now because about a month to a month and a half, maybe even closer to 2 months ago, an episode surfaced online on YouTube, and I made an executive decision. We were going to be doing Mind Readers here, but Mind Readers, we can't really get a whole heck of a lot of mileage out of that, I don't think. It was a very bland game, even though
And also, it's the worst Good Sid Todman show ever, easily.
Yeah, I was just about to say, also, it sucked.
Well, yeah, but it did give us the last car game in Card Sharks in 1988, 89-ish, where you have the group of 10 people. Okay, how many people said this? And you have that little marker, and if you're like 2 away or 1 away, you get $500, and if you're on the nose, you get the car. The basis of that was the end game on Mind Readers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that might be the only good thing about Mind Readers, but we may cover that eventually. But so, yeah, watching this new episode, we've had the pilot out there for ages. I mean, it's made the rounds on the trading circuit for at least 25 years at this point. And the pilot is different than the regular show. We're going to focus on the regular show, but after you see the pilot and then you see what happened on the regular show, it's like, this is not a bad game. Or at least not a bad show. Maybe the game is a little weak, but the show itself, I mean, you've got this maze, and the maze is somewhere in the realm of about 50 feet by 100 feet. So that's, I mean, humongous. That's gigantic, 50 feet by 100 feet in a studio. And what the object was well, it starts with a question round with 2 couples, and they're given a category, and then there's 2 answers on the board, and one couple gets to choose which question the other couple will answer. And generally, you'd expect them to pick the harder, or at least the perceived harder of the 2 questions for the other couple. And then after that question is answered right or wrong, then, if it's right, we reverse the process. The couple that just answered picks the next question to be given from the one that was left over previously, and then a new one. And then you repeat that process until the questions are exhausted. I believe there were 8 questions in a round. So after 8 questions, if one team was still playing, they went to the maze and they received 1 point per correct answer. Both teams received 1 point per correct answer. If both teams had bombed out, I would assume the team with the higher score went to the maze. And if both teams were tied, they had one jump-in question from that category to determine who goes into the maze. And the maze is where it gets fun. So originally, there was just a prize put in the maze, and you had 15 seconds to go get it. And one person will run in the maze, the other spouse will guide, will tell the husband or the wife, go left, go right, turn around, go through the revolving door. Oh, we should tell you, in the maze, there were diagonal doors, and there is also a revolving door in the middle of the maze. So that's a nice little shortcut if you think about it.
It's a shortcut, but at the same time, it could also really, really trip you up.
Yeah, depending on the timing and how well you pay attention to directions. And so the object was get to the specific side of the podium that has that prize. And so the podium would be marked off with a little design on top of the podium they need to get to. And then also the four sides of the top of the podium, one of them would light up because there are 4 different buzzers on the podium, and it would just be too easy for you to hit one of them. So you had to hit a specific one. If you saw the top of the podium was lit, the back side, you'd have to hit the back button on the podium. If it was on the right side, you'd have to hit the right button on the podium, and so on and so forth. And there were, I think it was about 10 podiums within the Money Maze. They did alter the maze slightly between episodes. I mean, if you think about it, it takes some time to completely change up the maze. But they did, from what I've read, change up the maze. They did have different configurations for each tape date. So you'd have the same general configuration, but you'd have slight alterations every episode. So I mean, that's good that they changed it a little bit just so the champs can't just go through the maze and pick up all the stuff, and because they remember what the general configuration was for the first 2 episodes with maybe a minor tweak or 2 here or there. Later in the show's run, there was a second little bonus wrinkle added, and this is actually on the episode that is on YouTube, where you can go for the main prize in 15 seconds, or if you want an additional 10 seconds, you can go for that prize and $500. So you get 25 seconds to get those 2 towers. On the episode that was recently posted, there were also little, I don't want to call them bribes, but the incentives they gave you were points. So, okay, if you want to go for 25 seconds to go for the refrigerator and the $500, we'll also give you 3 bonus points if you get to both towers. And at least on, I don't want to spoil it, but at least on the episode on YouTube, every round was, let's go for the bonus points. And I know there was one round with 3. There might have been a round where they offered 6 bonus points or 9 bonus points to try and make the game a little tight if you had, one team go to the maze for the first 2 rounds and then the other team go to the maze for the 3rd round. It all sort of didn't matter because in the end, there's always the catch-up round. There's got to be, I'm not going to call it a golden snitch per se, but, you're down 32 to 4 points. Here's the catch-up round. You can still win the game. Don't lose hope. AKA, you're screwed unless you get really lucky. So what the final round was, no maze involved. It was just questions. The same format we saw earlier where you're given 2 answers. The opponents pick which one you're going to play. And for each one you get right, there's a progressive system. You get 1 additional point compared to the value of the last question. So first question's worth 1 point, second question's worth 2, third is worth 3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can go until you miss. And obviously, if you don't have at least as many points as your opponents, you lose, they win the game. But if you surpass their total, they get 1 chance doing the same thing where they can surpass you and win the game. I'm not going to spoil how the game ends. You've got to see it yourself. But then the $10,000 dash.
Oh, get your popcorn ready.
The presentation of this, I think, was absolutely just amazing. So the $10,000 is hidden in the maze on 5 of the podiums. 4 of the podiums contain the zeros. And then 1 podium contains, as Nick Clooney would say, the all-important 1. Because here's the catch. If you don't get that 1, you're winning nothing.
It's basically, you win what you push. You push all zeros, guess what you're going home with? 0.
Well, not even necessarily. We'll get to that in a little bit. But there were some instances, and this may have been the same couple. I've heard conflicting reports about this. But there was one couple that went in the maze, and they got a 0. And then they got another 0. And then they got a third 0. And then they got a fourth 0. And then the husband went out of the maze. And you have to hit a button that was affectionately called the birthday cake, because it did sort of look like a small towered birthday cake, kind of, sort of.
It kind of looks like an upside-down chandelier sort of deal.
Yeah, that works. It's an apt comparison. So they hit all. So the husband hit all 4 zeros, came out of the maze, hit the button. Sorry, you didn't hit the 1. You won absolutely nothing.
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
And then I this may have been the same couple. Again, I've heard differing stories about this. So the runner went in and got a 1 and a 0 and ran back out and won $10.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
But then, and again, this is another one that is corroborated by a couple of sources. Oh. This may be the first situation where an expletive, albeit sort of on the mild side nowadays, aired on TV. So there was a runner named Warren, and his wife was giving the directions from the crow's nest. And Warren was really bad at following directions. And the thing is, if you watch the pilot, you can see, Bernie, go to the right, no, go to your other right. It's like, but the thing is,
you're almost expecting somebody to say, military right!
Well, the thing is, yeah, exactly that. Your right, as you view it, may not be your partner's right when he's in the maze. Because, his right may take him to the back, or may take him to the front, or may take him to the left, depending on which direction he's facing. So, yeah, poor Warren, he had some issues. He was actually the person that hit 4 zeros and got nothing. But then, apparently on another show, he may have been the one that got the $10. But also, again, you had to hit that birthday cake button to win the money. So it's all fine and well that you hit the 1 and the 4 zeros. But if you don't hit that birthday cake, you get nothing. Also, one other thing we should mention, and apparently this happened only on the first episode. Only on the first episode, interestingly enough. So, what happens if the 2 couples tie? Well, the 2 couples did tie, at least in the first episode. And again, from what I see, this is the only time 2 couples tied, as far as people know. Both couples get to run the $10,000 dash.
What? I'm sorry, what?
Hey, it's not my money. Yeah, both couples get to run the $10,000 dash. And on that first episode, believe it or not, both couples won the $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's going to leave a mark.
Compared with some of the other shows that ABC was airing at the time, I don't think it was much of a financial sting. Because remember, they had $10,000 pyramid. And it wouldn't be changed to $20,000 pyramid for pretty much another year to year and a half until I think mid-'76. And then you had Split Second. Split Second would have been in its waning days then. They didn't give a whole heck of a lot of money away. Big Showdown gave away $10,000 if you could roll Showdown on the first roll, and supposedly that only happened once. But still, rolling Showdown was worth $5,000. And then Password. This was the era that Future Installment Password back in 75 and also Password All-Stars. They had that convoluted bonus game where you could win like $4,000 or $5,000, and they played it like 2 or 3 times per day, it seemed. So a little $10,000 hit, it's just a flesh wound. Invoking one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's just a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound, absolutely.
I'm okay.
And I believe Chico mentioned earlier it aired at the 4 o'clock hour over most of the country, but Chico did mention Cincinnati aired it at 11 after the Nick Clooney show. Interestingly enough, doing research here in Cleveland where I live, it aired at 11 o'clock too. It was on against, I believe, High Rollers. Did you know that there was a Moneymaze pilot done in 2009?
I did not know that.
No, who hosted this?
Well, I don't know because it was done for a network in France.
Oh.
But still, I mean, it had a 6-month run here, and lo and behold, 35 years later almost, there was a French pilot for it.
Well,
I don't know. It just seems like something that
grown people run around in a mouse maze.
I don't know. It just seems like something that French people would watch. Maybe it's because I've watched a little too much of French Price is Right this week while going down rabbit holes. They got some weird pricing games.
Hey.
You know what? I'm going to watch that later.
Hey, couldn't be any more weirder than Future Entry, the early teens version of Australian Price is Right.
Oh, don't even get me started on that.
Actually, the set was very similar to the Australian version of Price is Right from that time.
So was the logo.
So was the logo, and at least they had a better variety of games, but they have some weird games. I mean, they have games that you know and love here. They have Plinko and some version of Punch a Bunch, and they've got cliffhangers, albeit a different type of cliffhangers. It was very weird watching how they do cliffhangers or how they do cliffhangers at different times, let's say. But France took some weird liberties with some of their games.
But now we're getting kind of sort of off track here.
Yeah,
that's another entry for another day.
We're getting back on track. And maybe it's just me, guys. This, I think, would be a great show to revive. And hear me out. We've had Wipeout, and we have Holy Moly, and those are 2 shows that are done in an outside setting. Could you imagine a Moneymaze being done on an outdoor set?
I can imagine a Moneymaze being done on an outdoor set on a 2-tiered maze. Or would that be too hard?
Oh, that's brilliantly evil. A 2-tiered maze.
Put it in prime time. Bump up the stakes. Bump up the difficulty, dude.
Yeah, make it $100,000. Put 6 numbers on the podiums, 5 zeros and a 1. Yeah,
besides, this summer of 2020 has already proven that there is a market for people who like to watch other people run around trying to chase things. Hi, Ultimate Tag. How you doing?
There is a round that's very much like Moneymaze on Ultimate Tag, where tag is being done in a maze. Kind of, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's conceivable. You never know. I'm not going to hold my breath, but weirder things have happened. So that's the Moneymaze. Does anybody have anything to add?
Did you talk about what Mark Evanier said about the set?
I did not.
Okay, so this maze, you said it was 50 by 100. It was so large, and the studio was so high. I'm guessing it was one of those 2-story deals, because you have the maze on the ground, and then in the balconies you have the audience and the stage. So that would be like I think you're talking maybe 2/3 of your local performing arts center sort of deal. Now,
it was stuffed in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the set was so large, it took an entire crew an entire day to set it up, and then they taped the 5 shows, and then they'd have to break it down for another day. So for every 5 shows that aired, they had to take 3 days worth of production time to produce.
That's expensive.
And according to Mark Evanier, the producer of the show, Don Siegel, described Moneymaze as the first game show where the stage crew took home more money than the contestants.
Which is probably not wrong. You're absolutely right about that. Again, that gets very expensive very quickly, especially when you're talking about 3 days to record 5 episodes. Or rather, you're paying the staff 3 days worth to get 5 episodes done. That's not terribly cheap.
No.
Oh, and I'm going to also add a couple more things. Talking about the 2009 revival for French television, it was for network TF1, or as we'd say in French, TF1, and it was Ron Greenberg with Don Lipp, who I believe passed away in 2009, so this is maybe one of the last things he did. And also Phil Guerin, who we know from, gosh, what hasn't he done in the last 20 years? Weakest Link.
21.
Yeah, 21, absolutely. So he's a definite known commodity in the business, again, especially the last 20 years. But also, I should add that contestants were on for either 3 shows or they were automatically retired when they won the $10,000. So you couldn't win it 3 times and get $30,000. So once you won the $10,000, you're gone. After 3 days, you're gone. And in those 3 days, I mean, realistically, the prizes, at least again on the one surviving episode that's on YouTube, they just racked up. You had furs and you had appliances. I mean, I think in terms of prizes, the couple that day, not counting cash, won in the range of like $5,000 of prizes. Again, I know there's a fur. I believe there was a refrigerator or a kitchen of some sort. So, I mean, just in the prizes, you could make a good haul. In addition to the episode that we mentioned popped up on YouTube within the last month or two, there's one other episode known to exist, and it's available at the Paley Center for Media. It is an episode that was recorded by, of all people, Andy Warhol.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, given Andy Warhol was, an artist, somebody who, thought outside the box, a pop culture icon, I'm not surprised that, he'd record this pop culture type of stuff, even though tapes would have been absolutely expensive in the day. But yeah, you can go to the Paley Center, at least in New York. I don't think the Beverly Hills one exists anymore. And you can see the Moneymaze from the Andy Warhol collection.
Do you want me to take a ride on the subway once this whole coronavirus thing is over and say, go to the Paley Center and say, hey, I want to watch the Moneymaze?
Well, it isn't done like that. I've actually been to the Paley Center in Los Angeles, or Beverly Hills, I should say. And it's actually all computerized. You actually search a database. You type in what words you want to, of the show you want to see, and they give you the results. And then you click on or at least, again, this is 15 years ago since I did this, but this is the process. You pick the episode from that database from picking on a computer screen, and then it loads up.
Oh.
Now, obviously, it might be a little more different nowadays with on-demand video and stuff like that with the technology changing. But yeah, it isn't like you go to the library and say, "Oh, can I, borrow the copy of Moneymaze, and can I have the copy of this show and that show?" No, it's all automated, and at least when I went, you got 2 hours to watch as many shows as you wanted, and so it was 4 half-hour shows, and I got to see stuff that doesn't necessarily exist, or at least much doesn't exist anymore. Oh, and Greg?
Yeah.
One thing we've got to mention, who was the cue card person or a cue card person on the Moneymaze?
Oh, that would be Nick's son, George.
Yeah, that'd be young George that we talked about earlier. But also, on top of the episode that Andy Warhol recorded, there was a brief clip from an episode, maybe it's the existing episode, I don't know, that aired in 2004 when Chuck Barris and young George Clooney were promoting the movie Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Oh.
Not that Chuck Barris had anything to do with the show, but... Well, maybe because of a game show connection.
Yeah,
because dad was...
Yeah, because Chuck was in the ABC family with Dating Game and Newlywed Game.
Yeah, but remember, Newlywed Game got canceled, and what was replaced by it? The Moneymaze!
Moneymaze,
yeah. Because the final show was right around Christmas of '74, and Moneymaze and Big Showdown premiered the following Monday, so a little bit of weirdness there, but yeah, I totally get, Chuck Barris, and his star for the movie was George Clooney, and, there's the game show connection and all that, but just kind of weird that the show that replaced one of his biggest shows, if not his biggest, happened to be this show that George Clooney's dad was on. Well, I think that's all we got. Chico, let's get through the maze and take us home.
Okay. Well, 1975, banner year for game shows. Banner year for larger-than-life game shows. Banner year for game shows that had a hook, most of which would not see the end of 1975. Nobody would think that in 1975 you could see grown people run around a maze looking for zeros and ones to try and cash a $10,000 check. But, thanks to ABC and Nick Clooney, it was definitely a thing on TV.
Absolutely, and as we said earlier, we are definitely going to cover more shows from that era. 1975 was a banner year for a number of reasons. All the weird game shows. I was born. End of story. That's the list.
That's the list.
Coming up later this week, I know everybody has something to say about this show. Not necessarily because it was so bad, but there's a lot to dissect from it.
Yeah, we're going to go through the life and times of an Ohio native who joined the army after dropping out of college, and then spent his life as a roustabout before being twice married with a misfit son. And they all live above a convenience store for some reason.
Okay, you guys don't know what we're talking about. I think we thoroughly stumped you. So
I'll tell you this much. I bet Philip Jeffries knows what we're talking about.
Well,
that's a Twin Peaks reference.
Oh no. It always goes back to the Twin Peaks.
You know this!
Well, I know this, but maybe the people that listen to this don't know this. Well, if they've listened to 2 shows, they know everything goes back to Twin Peaks.
Everything on this show comes back to 2 things. It's either Twin Peaks or the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour.
That's the list. That's the list.
Nobody's going to roar?
Row!
Going towards the back, Bernie. Come out, honey. Make a left. Go straight, Bernie. Make a right, Bernie. Go to the back.
Bernie.
4 seconds.
Now, Bernie, come back
3
here.
seconds.
Bernie,
2
come back
seconds.
here.
Stop. Bernie. No, Bernie, you didn't make it, Bernie.
Well, the Moneymaze, that was certainly a very unique game show of 1975, I must say. And me, Chico, and Mike, we're looking forward to covering the rest of the game shows of 1975 on our podcast in the future. But right now, in the present time, we got some great shows that have come up onto the Place to Be Nation pop feed lately. On the latest episode of Diamond Conversations, they welcomed Alex Fuse, broadcaster, writer, and podcaster. Alex, a broadcasting pro on the rise, is making quite the name for himself in the podcasting world by interviewing some of the most respected and well-known pundits of the sports industry, all while waiting for his chance to call his first minor league baseball game for the Burlington Royals during these unprecedented times. Not to mention, he still has 2 years of college left. You can listen to Alex's journey and see why he's a future star in the broadcasting world. In the 25th episode of Laugh-In Theater, host Andy Afferton is joined by returning guest Todd Weber to do a live watch of the 1993 comedy Dazed and Confused. The guys discuss the incredible ensemble cast, high school antics, overalls, the Beggin' soundtrack, cruising the strip, muscle cars getting paddled, school dances, wasting beer, smoking in the car, playing pool, the lack of police in the movie, and sneaking in the house. So remember, it would be a lot cooler if you had a joint on you and to keep on living. Livin. In the fifth and final part of the James Bond legacy, Scott and Rob discussed the current actor to play the role of James Bond, Daniel Craig. They discussed the controversial casting choice, great directors, the 50th anniversary with Skyfall, and more. Very much looking forward to No Time to Die once the whole situation with the coronavirus is a little bit settled and we try to get a little bit back to normal and start going back to the movie theaters whenever that's going to be. But I can't wait for that. In the fourth installment of Pop Goes the Classics, we'll look at the Disney animated 1941 movie Dumbo. Andy Afferton and Miranda Berthold looked at Dumbo, discussing the many aspects of the film, including the focus on the animals and not the humans, elephant clicks, the themes of overcoming adversity, treating others fairly, and unconditional love, the trippy pink elephants on parade sequence, the feel-good happy ending, and of course, the classic theme park attraction that is based on it. Also, be sure to check out the PTBN Wrestling feed, which includes a dive into topics running the gamut from the day's WWE through yesteryear. The feed includes Place to Be Podcast, Main Event, Jenny the Gems, Body Pressure Luck, P2P NXT, the NWA Saturday Special, and so much more. Subscribe today. And while you're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed as well. It is the home of Geek and Sassy, talking pop, freak out driving, telling stories, and more. Check out the new North-South Connection. It's brought to you by JT Rosero and Chad Campbell. It's the home for Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, the Extreme Three-Way Dance, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and more. And we have officially kicked off our 2020 stretch project determining the greatest WCW match ever. You have all year to do research, promote matches, and build your list. Conversation rules can be found at www.facebook.com/GWCW matches or on the Pro Wrestling Only message board. Be sure not to forget to check out PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. We have new voices and fresh takes, bringing you articles on topics in the worlds of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, including Trent SmackDown's Fox Report. This week in the WWE by John Crow, Paulie's Perspective, Jason's DVD Deep Dive, Ben's Unpopular Opinion, and don't forget about veteran columns like Glenn Butler's Wednesday Walk Around the Web. And if you're doing shopping at Amazon.com right now, be sure to click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the Place to Be Nation homepage, or use www.placetobenation.com/Amazon. It'll take you right to Amazon and helps out P2BN at no cost to you. Okay, so just 2 regular topics today, not 3 this week. So we're gonna go to our second and final topic of today as we discuss the story of Gordon Feaster. It's the 1981 to 82 ABC sitcom Open All Night. Episode. Hey, what episode number is this? Yeah, that's better. Thank you, kid. Episode 64. Submission 233. Open All Night. Open All Night aired on ABC from November 28th, 1981 to March 5th of 1982 for a total of 12 episodes, with 2 of them being unaired.
Well, before we get to the theme, I'm going to debate that because it looks like IMDb says 13 episodes and 2 are unaired. And actually,
one of them is the pilot, because I did the research too. Because thanks to our good friends at TV.com, there's like an episode guide for the 12 episodes that did air, and then the 13th was the pilot, which I don't think ever did air, or if it did, it didn't have a thing on it. But
yeah, there's no synopsis.
So while we fight over it, here's the theme song. Chico, you son of a...
This is the story of Gordon Feaster, born in Ohio the day before Easter. Had a normal childhood, did okay in school. Graduated from Columbus High in 1962. Now he's open all night. Open all night. Went away to college, but he didn't do that good. So the army drafted him and he got sent to Fort Hood. Served a 2-year hitch, never went overseas. Spent a year peeling potatoes and a year copping seas. Now he's open all night. Open all night. And old Gordon sort of drifted this way and that. At times he had some money, other times he was flat. He always seemed to mend, so he never saved a cent. Sure it was a struggle, but he always paid the rent. Now he's open all night. Yeah. Open all night. And that takes us up to 1974. And now old Gordon runs a grocery store with a wife named Gretchen who hangs around the house, and her son named Terry by a previous spouse. Gordon sits behind the counter and hawk up to his nose in a dinner in a pickle in a store that's never closed, and he's open all night. 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 Open all night.
Hey, Chico?
yes, Mike.
How would you describe that theme song in one word?
It is a bop.
Well, that's 2 words. A bop is 2 words. It's bop.
It's bop. It's not just a bop. It's bop.
Okay, I like It's a Bop better. Okay. Yeah, that is a great theme song that just lays out like everything. You've got the
And
whole
the best part about it is this theme song has absolutely nothing to do with the show, but it gives a sort of background to what goes on inside the mind of one Gordon Feaster, who was born in Ohio the day before Easter, which I've actually charted this out, and Mike and Greg can help me on this. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid. Let's go over the lyrics here one more time. This is the story of Gordon Feaster, born in Ohio the day before Easter, had a normal childhood, did okay in school, graduated from Columbus High in 1962. So that would put, if we are doing the I graduate high school at the age of 18, that would put his birthday at the day before Easter of 1944, which would be Saturday, April 8th, 1944. So, yeah.
Feasible, but that was during wartime.
Well, people aren't born during wartime.
Well, I'm mainly saying that, the guys for the most part would have been fighting.
Yeah, but they're still
still
got the fervents.
Well, no, I get it. There's still, people are still being born, and not every person fought overseas or in the war, but it's conceivable. Let's say that it's.
I see what you did there.
It's plausible. No, I didn't.
It's
okay, I see what you saw that I didn't really do. It isn't just conceivable; it's plausible.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so we go.
But wait! But after he went to high school and graduated in 1962, now he's open all night.
He's open all night.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a moment. Went away to college, but he didn't do that good, so the Army drafted him and he got sent to Fort Hood. Served a 2-year hitch, never went overseas, spent a year peeling potatoes and a year copping Z's. Okay, so he went off to college, fall of 1962. He didn't do that good, so in the early to mid 60s, he would probably be, if you're talking about conscription, you're probably talking about the middle of the Vietnam War.
Or the start of the Vietnam War.
The start of the American involvement in it.
Yeah, the start of the American involvement in the Vietnam War. And he was sent to Fort Hood, which, as you know, is in Killeen, Texas. And as of this recording, it is the headquarters of 3 Corps and the 1st Army Division West and the 1st Cavalry Division and the 3rd Cavalry Regiment, among others. The 3 Corps, which is the major formation of command in the United States Army, it was activated in World War I in France, and it oversaw the U.S. Army's division as they repelled German offensives and led them into Germany, and it was deactivated following the end of the war. And after World War II, it was a key training element. So he was going to basic training at Fort Hood, as it saw troops overseas in support of the Cold War, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. However, the Corps saw no combat deployments until Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. So, he was sent to Fort Hood. He served a 2-year hitch, never went overseas. So, most likely, he's in 3 Corps. So, what was he doing?
He spent a year peeling potatoes.
And a year copying Z's.
So I'm guessing after all of that, and if you looked at the video of the theme music, he was probably 4F'd for being too fat to fight. Probably.
Presumably.
Well,
You're
presumably.
there. Yeah.
Now he's open all night. Open all
night. But then, old Gordon sort of drifted this way. And then at times he had some money, but other times he was flat. He always seemed to manage, though he never saved a cent. Sure, it was a struggle. But he always paid the rent.
So in one of the scenes in the opening montage, you see him doing different jobs during this time where he always paid the rent but never saved a cent. And he was essentially a grease monkey, a car mechanic, and he was lying on his back on a dolly, either going under a car or just coming out from under a car. And so he had different jobs before he ended up getting the convenience store.
Yeah.
But then that takes us up to 1970.
But hold on. Wait.
Right.
There's
All
one
right.
thing you mentioned, and it actually ties into what you're about to say. Let's assume for a second that Gordon got married and had a child in this interim period.
Well, hold up before we get to that. After he's always paid the rent, now he's open all night. Yeah, open all night.
Greg just wanted to say that.
Yes,
all right. So what happens? That takes us up to 1974. And now old Gordon runs a grocery store with a wife named Gretchen who hangs around the house and her son named Terry by a previous spouse.
So he has a stepson.
No, that's his son.
No, he's got an ex.
He has an ex, and the ex had a son.
So he's a divorcee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
He sowed his wild oats, and Terry was the result.
Gordon sits behind the counter in hock up to his nose, in a dither in a pickle in a store that's never closed. And he's open all night, open all night, open all night, open all night, open all night.
Okay.
Open all night.
Okay.
Open all night.
Okay. All right. So, how much would you say it costs to run your own convenience store / grocery store / bodega?
In 1981?
In 1981. Let's just say he had to put out one heck of a mortgage or pay a whole lot of rent, which means he would have to, well, he'd have to pay for rent, upkeep, salary, and it's not cheap. And when you compound the fact that he's, and as the theme song says, in hock up to his nose. So he's gotta keep the store going so he can pay for all of it, presumably.
Well, that's sort of how businesses work. You've got to sell your stuff to make money and
Yeah,
pay for it. Yeah.
but if we're talking a guy who makes Bob Belcher of Bob's Burgers fame look like he's got all the money in the world, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Bob Belcher is a working man. He's definitely not living high off the hog. So the grocery store this revolves around, it was like Convenience 364?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was just a regular grocery store, or a convenience store more than a grocery store.
Yeah, it was more like a 7-Eleven, your Wawas, you know.
It really
your
was like a...
Sheetz.
Yeah, it really was like a 7-Eleven. You're absolutely right about that. Where was this located? Was it in California?
Yeah, California, because didn't he move to California in the theme song montage?
The Noel Gordon store drifted this way and that. At times he had money, other times he was flat. He always seemed to manage, though he never saved a cent. No, it doesn't say anything about where he moved to.
Well, no, in the montage.
Oh, in the montage.
Yeah, if you watch, the in the theme song, in the montage, he's hitchhiking to California.
L.A. or bust?
Yep.
Well, now hold on.
So
he may have busted. You never know. But also, in addition to being an auto mechanic, he was also a chef at one point, and he was a door-to-door vacuum salesman.
Yeah, because door-to-door vacuum salesmen back in the early 70s, they were in big demand.
Well, they were they were absolutely a thing. I don't know how in demand they were, but they were absolutely a profession. You know, the Kirby vacuum person or whoever.
You couldn't go to Sears. You had to rely on your door-to-door vacuum salesman.
So who staffed this enterprise?
It's wildly a bunch of crazies.
This was... There's not a lot of known names here. The lead, George Fisher, is played by George Zunza. D-Z-U-N-D-Z-A. And what was he known for besides this?
A little show on NBC called, the name is on the tip of my tongue, I swear to God. Law and Order.
Dun dun!
Really?
He was on the first season, Sergeant Max Gravy.
Okay, well,
And he was also the voice of Perry White on the Superman animated series back in the 90s.
Okay, I'm not a big Law and Order fan, so he was only on the first season. I thought maybe he was a character who was on the whole, 18 or 20 seasons or whatever. Okay.
This was before Jerry Orbach, obviously.
Yeah.
He didn't get replaced by Jerry Orbach, did he?
Who knows? I don't even know when Jerry Orbach came on Law and Order.
Okay.
Probably like season 3 or something.
His wife, Gretchen, or his second wife, we should say, Gretchen, was played by Susan Tyrrell.
Susan Terrell. Are we talking about the same Susan Terrell who was on Wings as Skunset Sal that one time?
Oh.
Yeah, we're talking about that one.
Oh, Wings. Glenn Quagmire's favorite show.
Oh,
Wings.
no. Don't go back there.
I love Wings.
We know you love
Wings. She spent more time on stage and film than she did on television.
Yeah, looking here, she was in Big Top Pee-wee.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That'll be something for It Was a Thing at the Movies.
You know, as soon as we get the Patreon up and running, yeah.
As soon as we get more than 5 listeners. Hey, 5 listeners.
We love you, 5 listeners. And his son Terry, who we'll talk about his sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Career advancement. And when we talk about the episodes, but his son Terry Hoffmeister. So I'm guessing I don't know how that family tree works. Anyway, it was played by Sam Whipple of 2 feature installments. 1, 7 Days as Dr. John Ballard, and 2, I'm putting it on the list right now, Archie to Riverdale and Back Again.
Just stay out of Riverdale.
This was before Riverdale got all dark and gritty.
Yeah, and had Match and Meek on it. Because once again, everything comes back to Twin Peaks on this show.
Or Match Game Hollywood Squares. He was also on a couple of episodes of another feature installment, Buffalo Bill, which actually takes us to another character, Officer Steve, who was played by Jay Tarsis, whose name has come up a couple of times in previous episodes because he was on the Duck Factory.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And also he created this show. He created
it with his writing partner, Tom Hatchett.
Jay Tarsis and his writing partner, Tom Hatchett, created Open All Night.
And one thing I want to note is the executive producer of this show is a guy who you might have heard of in the entertainment industry, Bertie Brillstein.
He's done some stuff.
Yes, he was the executive producer of Ghostbusters, The Blues Brothers, worked with Jim Henson on The Muppets. And of course, around this time, he would have had, The Blues Brothers would have been like a year earlier. So he's riding high on that. So he was representing like Belushi, Aykroyd, Bill Murray, all those people from SNL back in the day.
Yeah.
And also, he's half of Brillstein Gray Entertainment. People behind shows such as News Radio, The Larry Sanders Show, and The Sopranos. So definitely a known quantity there. Well, your night manager, Robin, wasn't played by a female. It was a male, and boy, he was a very big male. Bubba Smith.
Oh, yes, Bubba Smith.
Lieutenant Hightower from Police Academy.
Is this where you guys make fun of me for never seeing a Police Academy movie?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and especially considering Bubba Smith has the best scene in Police Academy 4. You know what I'm talking about, Chico.
Knocks over the locker, didn't even realize what he's done.
Well,
That
not
scene?
only...
The voodoo priest guy.
The voodoo priest scene...
guy.
Yeah, with the scene with David Spade in the car. Yama.
Seriously, folks, Police Academy 4, best of the series. I don't know what these critics are talking about.
Yeah, those people that gave it a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, go to hell. That was great.
I don't know what the hell they are talking about.
Of course.
I think there is some sort of incantation or cult chant going on. I have no idea what the hell they were just saying.
Okay, there's one more.
Well, no, hold on. There's something else I want to add about Bubba Smith. Since you guys want to talk about him in Police Academy, I'm going a whole different way.
Oh.
Yeah, because Bubba Smith was probably on one of my top 2 or 3 episodes of Married with Children ever.
Yes!
Yeah.
All night security dude, where he battled Al Bundy in a one-on-one game of football, and he played former high school football star Spare Tire Dixon.
Spare Tire Dixon.
The best ending in any episode of Married with Children in history. I will stand by that to the grave. all-night security dude. The ending of that episode is epic. Epic, epic, epic. Al Bundy and Bubba Smith as Spare Tire Dixon. Absolute perfection. Beautiful.
Chef's kiss. Rounding out the cast of Motley's is Officer Steve's partner, Officer Edie, played by Beverly Banfield, who is on future installment Burke's Law.
She was also the voice of the mayor on, and I don't know if this is an installment, but might be one to be considered, The Flintstone Kids.
Bedrock. We're all rocking in a bedrock way. The Bedrock Flintstone Kids. Okay.
Yes, that one.
Oh, wow.
I like
Hold up. Don DeLuise was on Burke's Law. Wow.
We should also mention they had some recurring customers. One was Dr. Kavanaugh, a very eccentric customer, and he was played by Clyde Phillip Taylor. Yes, that Clyde Phillip Taylor.
That Clyde Phillip Taylor?
Yes, that Clyde Phillip Taylor. And another customer who occasionally showed up as a customer is an unnamed customer, and he was of Middle Eastern descent, except they didn't really use the word Middle Eastern because, you know, it was a less PC time. And that was played by Joe Mantegna.
Oh, that Joe Mantegna?
Yeah, that Joe Mantegna. We're talking about Fat Tony from The Simpsons, number one. But also a little bit before that, I believe it was about a year earlier, the last season of Soap, he played a revolutionary. He played sort of like a Sandinista type of revolutionary in the plot line where Katherine Hellman's character got kidnapped and executed, or supposedly executed, because that was the cliffhanger in the series finale in the end of the fourth season.
Yeah,
but
she must have been all right because she showed up on Benson later.
Well, and obviously Katherine Hellman showed up on Who's the Boss. Oh yeah, okay, because Benson's related. Yes.
Yeah.
That
Tony Mantegna can play anything.
Yeah, and actually, he was 1-1, and what it was is there were three revolutionaries: 1-1, 1-2, and 1-3. Another one of his fellow revolutionaries, either 1-2 or 1-3. I think he was 1-2. Doesn't make a difference. He's one of the ones. And he's going to show up in 2 future installments. Greg, I hope you're sitting.
Hold up. Okay, I'm sitting down.
I'll take your word for it. Oh, he played 1-2, by the way. Lori Faso, who hosted I'm Telling and was the main character, and maybe the only character, in the TV show Marlo and the Magic Movie Machine.
Wow.
So I think we've exhausted all our connections that we really need to take care of with Joe Mantegna, Fat Tony.
Mm-hmm. And there was another customer who was played by a young actress by the name of Cassandra Peterson. And if you don't know who Cassandra Peterson is, first of all, why? Because she was a really respected bit player in Hollywood back in the day, and 2, she did a little thing on cable, on local cable access, where she played Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
And also, if you didn't see it, this is on YouTube through ABC's channel. She was on To Tell the Truth on Thursday, the 28th of May. In one of the absolutely amazing reveals. I'm not a big fan of To Tell the Truth, but I was absolutely floored when she was one of the imposters. And you could not tell she was Elvira. I mean, she's... Well, you got to remember, she's probably close to 70 years old at least now, but she looked nothing... 68. Close enough.
Yeah.
But she looks nothing like Elvira.
But
also Elvira was a thing in the 80s and 90s. We're in 2020, so people age and look different.
Yeah. We'd like to tell you a little bit more about what happened, but we're saving that for later.
Yeah. And also, Elvira, she's got 2 pinball machines.
Yes, she does.
Elvira and the Party Monster is a classic.
Well,
that's gonna be covered on future Patreon podcasts. It was a thing. It was a thing in pinball.
Yeah, it was a thing at the arcade.
Yeah.
And also, Chico mentioned there's one other special guest we're going to talk about, but we're going to wait a little while for that. We're going to get to him in episode 4.
Okay.
Most of these episodes are on YouTube. Not all of them, not all 11 aired episodes, but I think you can easily find, what would you say, guys, 7 or 8 of them?
At least most of the run.
Yeah.
Oh, a majority of the run, but you're not going to find all of them, but you're going to find most of them.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the episodes, we're going to start with the first episode from November 28th of 1981, Night Moves. Gordon looks for a new night manager for the store. The candidate includes his inept stepson, Terry. I don't know if I can say this, but I'll try and get away with it. A hostile munchkin and a fugitive from the law. And we all know in the end...
so I was wrong. It was his stepson.
Okay, well, yeah, Greg was right.
Yes, I told you.
Yeah, Greg
That explains why the last name's different.
My bad.
Yeah, because as the theme song said, Gretchen is with her son Terry by a previous spouse.
So she would be the divorce.
Yeah, it doesn't say his son, it's her son. Yeah. So, good Gordon Feaster, this is his first marriage, and Gretchen, this is her second marriage. Okay. So we apologize to Greg. Greg was right all along, and, well, me and Chico just can't read. We don't know pronouns. So, anywho, looking for the new night manager, the candidates include Terry, the stepson, a hostile munchkin. Again, apologies for the use of that word if you find it offensive.
Hey, blame the person who wrote it in 1981.
Exactly. And a fugitive from the law. And we know, as we mentioned about the characters earlier, the person who ended up becoming the night manager was Robin, played by Spare Tire Dixon. I mean, Bubba Smith.
Officer Hightower.
But first, in the first episode, he does get arrested and arraigned and sent back to New York for a crime he didn't commit. But then that's settled in the second episode.
Oh, you mean Robin's Return?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Because it says it right in the title.
Yeah, Robin's Return. Terry stops a robbery, so Gordon makes him night manager, a position he promised to Robin, who unexpectedly returns.
Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting little family struggle.
Yeah.
You promised this to your stepson, who's, well, almost blood to you, closer blood to you than say Robin. And here comes Robin. Oh, I promised him the job. Sorry, Terry.
An interesting fact about episode 2. Do you know who makes a cameo as Terry's friend in the episode?
I don't have an idea.
Okay, Chico, do you want to guess?
No, I have no idea.
Judge Reinhold.
Oh, yes, I did see his name going through the list of cast members on IMDb.
Yes. And of course,
Judge Reinhold would have been really young back then.
Yeah. And also keep in mind, 1981, this is a year before Fast Times at Richmond High.
So he'd be youngish. Or he would have like a huge growth spurt.
24.
Yeah.
So young enough.
Young enough. There you go. Which means he would play a high school student at the age of 25. Holy 90210, Batman.
Holy held back a couple years, Batman. And then episode 3, Centerfold. On their 5th anniversary, Gordon discovers Gretchen posed as Miss Bandana in a magazine titled Skinny Dippers of 1965.
Woo! So yeah, a champagne anniversary gets really, really, really awkward. Really awkward.
But then episode 4. This is the one where it has the special guest we talked about earlier. We'll get to that after we go through the synopsis. Buckaroo Buddies. Terry's real father unexpectedly surfaces, hoping that his son will come live with him. And not to spoil anything, but since Terry shows up on episode 5, he didn't go back with his natural father. But there's a lot that we need to talk about with this episode, right, Greg?
Oh, yes, especially who shows up in this episode.
Yeah, this is the special celebrity guest that we sort of omitted earlier for, well, obvious reasons. We didn't want to spoil it.
And if you listened to our year-end show last year, we kind of gave it away.
So the person we're talking about played a random customer who actually went into the 364 store, wanted directions, and ended up buying, was it like a collectible cup or a collectible mug from, or of Melmac?
Yeah, beer stein. A Melmac beer stein.
Melmac beer stein.
And the connection, and of course, it should be noted, I mentioned that this was executive produced by Bernie Brillstein. What did he later executive produce?
Another Tom Patchett creation, Alf.
So he asked for directions, got this Melmac beer stein, and I don't know what a Melmac beer stein is. It wasn't like shaped like Alf, or it wasn't filled with cat innards or anything.
Yeah, especially since Alf isn't for like another 5 years.
Yeah, Alf's not for another 4.5, 5 years at this point. And he also shows up at the end of the episode, and the person we're talking about is some little guy named David Letterman. Yes, David Letterman played the customer, looking for directions, purchasing the Melmac beer stein, but then showing up in the last segment of the show. And it's a very, very funny last segment. We're going to stick it into the episode right here.
Hi. It's me again. The dinner recommendation.
Oh, yeah, right. How'd it turn out?
Unbelievable. Great. You have been so helpful to me. I just had to come by and thank you again.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Could I ask you another question? It's about my career.
What about it?
All right, let's say, for example, that you had hosted The Tonight Show. Then you had your own show. And then the network gives you, like, a multi-million-dollar contract, pay or play.
I hear you.
Would you go out and do a guest shot on some sitcom? I'll tell you, Feaster, the world's gone crazy.
So, oh my gosh, what can we take out of that? I mean, first off, the references to his old show, the David Letterman Show. Oh, by the way, which we're going to talk about in the next month.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the multi-million-dollar pay or play. And the inside jab on Open All Night.
Yeah.
That is like extremely Letterman meta right there.
That's total meta.
And also it should be noted who was one of the writers on Open All Night.
Yes, Merrill Marco, who was one of Letterman's writers for ages, but also occasional love interest of David Letterman.
Yes.
It was just weird because you got to remember, this is an ABC show, and I'm pretty sure Letterman had an exclusive deal with NBC at the time.
Yeah, so he was, because as he mentioned, he references the play contract, so he's biding his time until NBC cancels Tom Snyder and they put him in at the 12:30 slot next to Carson.
And that would have happened just about a month later because this aired December 26th of 81, and Letterman's late night show on NBC started on February 1st of 82. So about a month and a week later.
And also note, who was the first guest on Late Night with David Letterman?
George Zunda.
No.
Uh,
Bill Murray. Bill Murray.
Oh, Bill Murray, yes.
Yeah, another Bernie Brillstein connection.
Yes. And that takes us to episode 5, First Love.
Aww.
Gretchen frets over the lack of romance in her marriage. Meanwhile, Terry and his girlfriend are so smitten with one another that they don't notice when a motorcycle crashes through the window of the store.
How do you not notice that?
Love
blinds you. So does
Yes.
hormones. So do hormones.
Yes. And so does a runaway Harley Davidson.
Yeah. Love makes you do stupid things.
Oh, take it from me and probably Chico. Love makes you do stupid things. I don't hear confirmation from Chico.
Oh, I was agreeing with you.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
It's like I wasn't exactly arguing the point. Episode 6. Terry runs away. Set up with Gordon's abuse, Terry packs his 2 t-shirts and his pet worms and hits the road.
There's something I need to add on my description here. He runs away, like you said, but where does he end up taking a job?
Where does he end up taking a job?
At the Bates Motel.
What?
That's not creepy.
That's not weird or anything. But yeah, that's what it says here. It says Terry runs away from home and winds up taking a job at the Bates Motel.
Oh,
not creepy at all. Nope.
Oh.
Yeah, just be careful when you're taking care of the showers. Episode 6, Sitting Ducks. After the store is repeatedly robbed, Gordon hires a gung-ho type who's just back from El Salvador to lead tear gas classes in his home. What the hell? Tear gas classes in his home.
What is it with the 80s and references to the Sandinistas?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about that with Joe Mantegna earlier when he was on Soap. Yeah. And the neighbor that we may be talking about who's doing the tear gas classes, another, and I'm going to assume it's this actor. I don't think this episode's online. Might be Joel Brooks.
Future installment, My Sister Sam?
Yeah, Joel Brooks from My Sister Sam, among many, many other things, yes.
Oh, we don't have My Sister Sam on the list.
Yeah, we do.
I'm pretty sure we do.
We do?
I'm about to put it there.
No, it's not there.
It is now. There you go.
But speaking of Joel Brooks, he's the same person who, oh gosh, one of the better pyramid players back in the 80s, if you remember that.
Oh yeah, he was very good on Pyramid.
Yeah, very good on Pyramid. Has that sort of, excuse the phrase, Jew-fro. Well, he does. I'm not lying.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
A slight Jew-fro. But yeah, he's definitely, again, as I would say, a known entity in the business. Definitely not one of those people that you're like, who is he? Huh? He doesn't have a Wikipedia page. He's absolutely
a sweet mullet is what he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's somebody you know. And also, speaking of something we talked about last week, he was also on future installment Private Benjamin.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold up a second. I forgot who else was on My Sister Sam.
David Naughton of future installments.
Making it.
Oh, gee. And everything goes back to David Naughton and Making It, too. If it isn't Twin Peaks and it isn't Match Game Hollywood Squares, it's David Naughton.
And Making It.
Can you imagine a show where you devote the entire time to all three?
Can the world handle it? Oh my gosh.
No. Moving on. Episode 8. Such good friends. Gretchen is introduced to on-the-job sexual harassment when she goes to work for Gordon's best friend, played by Philip R. Allen. Who'd that guy be?
The only thing that I see of any usefulness. He was on 4 episodes of Lou Grant. Oh, he played Roy Turner on future installment The Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
So there's one thing that we'll see him in sometime in the future. He also played an occasional character on Mary Tyler Moore. He played an occasional character on Bob Newhart. So he may be one of those people who's like, oh, you're that guy.
Oh, you're that guy.
Yeah, you're that guy from that show, or that I remember seeing you on that episode.
So he's that guy from that today?
More or less, and also he had a recurring character as Mr. Reese on, and I believe this is a future installment, and if it isn't, darn it, I'm going to make it one because I remember this, The Bronx Zoo. So that's who Philip R. Allen is. And aren't you better for knowing it?
I'll let you know in a couple of minutes.
Well, this is early 1982, so I want to know what the heck the sexual harassment training in 1982 was.
Well, I'll take it a step further because my description gets a little deeper. Gretchen takes a job working for Gordon's philandering buddy, who quickly puts the moves on her. And meanwhile, Robin bonds with Terry, and the eccentric Dr. Kavanaugh has a run of bad luck. So, yeah, a philanderer. That's, I think, like all we need to know there. Episode 9, Scam. Gordon and Gretchen attend a seminar on avoiding a scam and conclude it's preposterous. Unfortunately, at the same time, Terry's at the store, falling victim to phase 1 of the scam. In other words, this sounds like Bernie Madoff 26 years early.
Well,
there's 2 notable guest stars I want to mention in this episode. One of the people from the convention of the managers at 364 is played by Dick Miller. Now, you two must be wondering, who is Dick Miller?
Who is Dick Miller?
I'm glad you asked. Dick Miller is a guy who would recognize from various movies from Joe Dante, like Gremlins, Inner Space, and Matinee. He plays Mr. Futterman in Gremlins 1 and 2.
Did you say Mr. Futterman?
Yes.
That sounds like he's related to Josh Futterman of Future Man, which I'm not sure is or is not a future installment, but whatever.
Who's the second person?
Oh, the second person is the guy from corporate that shows up that distracts George while the scam is going on, and he is played by William G. Schilling. Now, you might be wondering, who is William G. Schilling?
Okay, that name rings up.
Okay, I do know who he is, but Greg, can I?
Okay, go ahead.
He's the principal from Head of the Class.
Yes, he's Dr. Samuels from Head of the Class.
Episode 10 was a visit from the folks. Gordon's chain-smoking parents visit and quickly stomp on his nerves.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Gretchen tries out a new hairdo, and again, this is not me speaking. This is IMDb / whatever the capsule was from 1982. And the Arab, played by Joe Mantegna, tries to amass a complete collection of gurgle cups.
Gurgles.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, Gordon's parents...
yeah, they're played by Mary Jackson and Art Casul.
The thing is, when you first see them, they're smoking like a chimney stack. I mean, as soon as they walk into the 364 store, smoking. And they came across as annoying just at first sight. And I'm not even talking about the smoking, even though that would annoy the stink out of me. And then the gurgle cups, what the gurgle cups are, think almost like collector cups that you get when you buy like a Slurpee, or if you go to like McDonald's, they give you special cups like, here's the Cleveland Browns, or here's your favorite sports team, or some sort of collector stuff like that. Not like the McDonald's Monopoly game or anything like that. So the character played by Joe Mantegna was trying to collect all the different cups. And just some of the names of the people on the cups that were used. Very, I don't want to say necessarily obscure celebrities, but I mean, it wasn't like you were looking for whoever the big star in 1981/82 was. You weren't looking for a Meryl Streep cup, or you weren't looking for Ben Kingsley would have been big in like 82, 83 with Gandhi. But yeah, it wasn't somebody like that. The cup that he kept on getting was a Nipsey Russell cup.
Yeah, well, of course, who wouldn't want a Nipsey Russell cup?
But that was the cup he kept on getting, and he's like, no, I've got like plenty of Nipsey Russells at home. Let me get somebody else. So yeah, he was trying to collect all the collector cups, the gurgle cups of the different celebrities, which who knew Nipsey Russell was on a gurgle cup? Moving on. The last aired episode from March 5th of 82, The Chicken Suit. Gretchen tries to add a personal touch to the store by offering homemade chicken sandwiches. But the result is a food poisoning lawsuit.
Because chicken.
Chicken. That's all you need to know, because chicken. Meanwhile, a saxophone player camps out by the front door and annoys Gordon. Because gosh knows, people standing outside of grocery stores and convenience stores, they're always a bother. They bother me, but your mileage may vary on that.
Uh-huh.
And then there's 2 episodes that didn't air, and since they didn't air and they're not available on DVD, we can't fill the gaps unless Chico has it.
Death of a Bag Lady, yeah, no.
Okay,
no.
yeah, Death of a Bag Lady and Edie's Girl. I don't think we're going to have be able to fill in those holes.
Unless Shout Factory come on, you got to find this and release it on DVD sometime.
And really, this is a funny show. This was a funny show, and I'm not even saying that because of the Letterman. The Letterman thing, like I said, was totally surreal.
That was a bonus.
The whole Letterman thing was totally surreal, a bonus. Meryl Marco did write 3 episodes of the show, 2 others besides the Buckaroo Buddies episode. But looking at some of the reviews, they
called this the funniest show on television, right?
Yes.
Well, Newsweek.
Well, let's also remember the funniest news show of 1978 was previously covered late last year in Flying High, and that didn't last terribly long. But there's a review. Open All Night is weird but good, from the Madison Courier in Madison, Indiana. But then there's other reviews which say it's not that funny, or it's an impending doom, being canceled very soon. And another reason that it probably didn't last that long was when it aired.
When did it air?
Saturday nights at 8:00.
Oh, that's
good.
That's that's your death slot, more or less, even in 1982. And and we even talked about that in the past. Gosh, how many episodes? Wasn't it Love Sydney that was on? Yeah, we talked about it last week.
Yeah, it was last week. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, last week we just talked about Love Sydney, and Love Sydney was moved to the Saturday night slot in its final season about a year later.
You know what was airing out of Open All Night? It's a Living. Well, by then it was under the title Making a Living.
Yeah, it's a living, but it was under its original title, Making a Living. Yeah. And it was replaced in winter of 82 by King's Crossing. But then the show that replaced King's Crossing had a little bit more success. A little show called T.J. Hooker.
Oh, you mean the T.J. Hooker story, Heather Locklear of future installment Going Places?
And William Shatner of future installment Show Me the Money?
Well, and also William Shatner of future installment, the absolutely weird installments of Rescue 911.
We've got future installments for days, in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah, everything doesn't necessarily have to tie into the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour or Twin Peaks. Or what was the other one?
Making it.
Making it. David Naughton. Right.
Making it.
Oh, my gosh. But yeah, this is one of those shows, even though, again, 7 or 8 episodes are on YouTube, I would love to see this come out on DVD.
Yeah. Okay, interesting bit of trivia. For a while, because the internet, it was sort of insinuated that this show was based off of a British show with a similar title that lasted in upwards of 14 years called Open All Hours. Granted, the premise is similar, and the title is similar, but these are two different shows.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, you said it ran for 14 years?
Yeah.
Do you know how many episodes it had?
How many episodes did it have?
A very British number. 26. Because you got to remember the British seasons were generally 6 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, they did a series in 1976, then another one in 81, and then 82 and 85. So 14 years, 26 episodes. So you got about 2 new episodes a year. Not even 2 new episodes.
Ow.
Talk about pacing oneself.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's the British way of doing TV shows. We sort of made fun of that when we did the April Fool's Rip Taylor in Time. Because we couldn't come up with 13 plot lines, so we did 6, and we said, it is a British show. Tee-hee-hee. Now you know the inside stuff about our show.
Hey, not every British show could be like Doctor Who back then to do like 30 episodes a year.
Well, not every British show is a cash cow like Doctor Who. Let's just say that.
Uh-huh.
But let's also say another thing. Open All Night, well, it closed up shop, and it's been closed for almost 40 years. But, in spite of, some decent actors, I mean, you look at the names, Bubba Smith was okay, not necessarily a great actor, but, memorable in Police Academy, and as I mentioned earlier, All Night Security Dude, Married with Children episode. And Jay Tarsis, gosh, he went on and did The Duck Factory and Buffalo Bill, and he's a known name. And, Meryl Marco, even though she only wrote 3 episodes, gosh knows she went on to bigger and better things. But in spite of all that, Open All Night was just a thing on TV.
Yeah.
Did I do that right, Chico?
You did that right.
Oh, good.
But there's one more thing I want to do. It's time to play eBay Price is Right.
Oh my, this must be a deep dig if you found something from Open All Night on eBay.
I did. This is a publicity still of George Zunza right by the sign of the 364 store. On the back, it reads, ABC photograph, care of ABC Public Relations. Subject, George Zunza, program Open All Night, premiere fall 1981, Fridays at 8:30 to 9 Eastern Daylight Time. Taken September 8th, 1981. Shipping from Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, so who's going to go first?
I'm going to pick Mike because he looks like George Zunza, but he's as tall as Bubba Smith.
Well, also,
Where the hell did that come from?
Well, also Gordon's character was from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Was he
from Columbus?
Well, he's
Yeah,
from Columbus, but he was
No,
wearing Browns and Indians stuff in the friggin' show.
Well, they don't have a pro sports team in
They don't
Columbus
have
in 1982.
Thank you.
Yeah,
the Blue Jackets weren't for another 17 years.
Yeah, the Blue Jackets weren't until 99 or so.
And the crew, well, nobody cares about the crew now anyway.
And nobody cares about the Cincinnati teams. The Bengals sucked. Well, no, they're actually probably as good as the Browns back in 82.
Mike, your bid!
And the Reds, well, the Reds were good in the 70s. And my bid is $9.99.
Greg.
I will go. Well, hold on. A lot of the photos I've seen on eBay are like around $14, $20 range. So I'll go $11.99.
Okay, so Mike, you bid $9.99. Greg, you bid $11.99. The actual buy it now price for this photo of George Zunza and the 364 store sign, $19.99.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know my eBay photos of short-lived TV shows, baby. How much they're worth.
So $19.99. Damn.
$19.99, and you can have your very own picture of George Zunza. It's a nice picture. I like the picture. Anyway.
Maybe we should get it from the museum.
Maybe you should get it for. No, we're not getting the picture for the museum. We're getting the sign for the museum.
Oh.
Not that. And you know what? We're getting that sign and the sign that blinks. Open all night.
Open all night. Open all night. Open all night.
But that would confuse our visitors because they'd think we'd be open all hours.
Not open all hours. It's a different show.
No. The museum is open all hours because the sign says open all night, open all night, open all night.
Open all night.
Oh, never mind. Close the show up.
Anyway, one thing that's open all night is our website. It was a thing on TV.com. There you'll find links to our social feeds, past episodes, more about the show, more about us, and of course, our weekly. Are we still doing the weekly drops over at Place to Be Nation? Because I think that's important.
Yes, I'm not sure what day it is because right now, considering now that we're technically all caught up, it's just now this is the end after this. So got Place to Be Nation people. This is the second show since we're now officially all caught up and up to date. So yeah, there's not a third episode after this.
Or maybe there is.
Remember, there's the live episode.
We may have to do that.
The one we did last Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna. I don't know. I think we'll do the live show in the next batch of episodes. I'll have to talk to Jennifer Smith about that.
All right. Hi, Jennifer Smith.
Yeah, hey, Jennifer. And while Greg does that, next week, I know I say that we have 2 great episodes coming up every week. These are 2 episodes that I know at least one of us has been waiting eagerly to do. Specifically the later episode, but yeah, both of these episodes, I think we have quite a bit to say about them. We won't give you any hints, but if you listen to this, you'll listen to any damn thing. No.
I want to kiss these episodes with my mouth.
And while Chico and the episodes go into a broom closet, we'll just thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week with 2 more episodes of It Was a Thing on TV, while Chico does It Was a Thing in the broom closet with those episodes, and I'm going to puke.
Wow!
So now let's sing the theme song. This is the story
of Easter, born in Ohio, the day Easter had a normal childhood.
Cool, graduated from Columbus
High in 1962. Now he's open all night. Open all night.
Open all night.
Went away to college, but did good. So he already got sent to Fort Hood. Served a 2-year hitch, never went overseas. Spent a year peeling potatoes and a year capping Z's. Now he's open all night. Open all night.
Open all night.
Then old Gordon sort of drifted his way, and then at times he had some money, other times he was flat.
He always seemed to manage that we never saved the cents, or it was a struggle, but he always paid the rent. Now he's open all night.
Yeah, open all night.
That takes us up to night 74. Well, Gordon runs a grocery store with a wife named Gretchen, who hangs around the house, a son named Terry by a previous spouse. Gordon sits behind the counter and hawk up to his nose, and a dither in a pickle in a store that's never closed. Now he's open all night.
Open all night.
Open all night. Open all night. Open all night.
Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night. Open all night.